Am I muted?
No.
Okay. I'm on my phone and I can never figure out. I can do it. My computer, I get garbled, and then my phone, everything is small. So
Yeah.
I can either be garbled or small. So I'm small today.
If you turn your phone sideways, you'll get a big picture.
Okay, that's better.
Mm.
Okay, so I haven't been here in a while because I've been doing a lot of stuff, but I've been listening to the watching the over the last few weeks and seeing what everybody's up to, which Vince is so rewarding. So thank you so much for doing this, because, and thanks everybody in the group, because what different people say really does resonate, whether you're actually on the talk or you're listening from afar. So I just want to say thank you. So I don't know when this was, but anyway, I started I started being more like walking, like when I'm walking, talking, trying to eliminate the I word, and it's really kind of amazing. Of course, it's new, so it takes a little while for the brain to kind of register that, but it's really, really helpful. It's really helpful because it's just really helpful, you know. And then the other thing I wanted to say, and then I'll shut up because I'm really in a good place right now. I think I am. I hope I'm not deluding myself, but you never know. Um, I went on this 4,000-mile road trip in 8 days, and was able to listen to like 4 different books while I was driving. It was wonderful. It was like a retreat. I mean, it really, I should be a cross country truck driver. But anyway, I read a lot of Ram Dass's books, and 3 of them, matter of fact. And it just, really, we're all one and it's all love. No matter how you slice it, whether you're looking at the Hindu part or the Buddhist part or the Catholic part. I just saw Cabrini. If you haven't seen the movie, it's fabulous. And it doesn't matter where you're at or what path you're taking, or if there's even a path or whatever. I think the bottom line is love. And I was able to have the lesson of that this week. My ex-husband and my son, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, there was a big blah, blah, blah. And I was able to just say what I needed to say. And then 2 days later, I took him to his doctor's appointment, like whatever, and that kind of, you can just love people just because they're who they are. You can, it doesn't matter if they're a jerk or an ass or an idiot or whatever. That's just that person. It's not really who they are. So anyway, I have to thank this group, and I love listening to all of y'all. I feel like I know y'all. James, I feel like I know you. It's so funny because I think I started around the same time you did, and you're like, well, I don't know, and Alan helped me too, So anyway, so thank you all for being who you are, and I think I'm out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're one of them. You're one of this group, so that's you contribute as well as everything else. That's great. Yeah. It's a hive mind. I like that concept. Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right about love, and it changes. Our idea of love changes, but there's some kind of really fundamental, basic energy there that when we're not defending ourselves, when we get rid of that idea of a self existing and we no longer need to defend it, then that can show through. That can motivate us for lots of things. All of a sudden, we're not worried about being hurt as we feel an urge to give out. It's a change in direction from in to out or something. Yeah. Anyway.
What I found too was honesty, and being authentic, because I my ex-husband, I've been divorced for 19 years. Divorced, yeah, I was married 21 and divorced 19. That's 40 years with this person, because I have a son, and so we, that keeps you together. And I hate to say it, but maybe 39 years. For 39 years, I really haven't been honest with him because I was afraid of him, he had a temper, and he kind of, I was always trying to protect my son, and I've just always tried to keep the peacemaker, and so last weekend, all this stuff blew up with him and my son, and he had open heart surgery. My ex-husband did, and blah blah blah. But anyway, bottom line is that there was a blow up, and I was in New York, and they call me. I'm in New York. I live in Louisiana. I'm 2,000 miles away. But anyway, so I listened to what everybody had to say, and then 2 days later, I called back, and everything he said, I was just like 100% honest with him. And it felt so good. I mean, he's got to wear a defibrillator vest because of the open heart surgery. And he was saying, oh, I don't want to wear this vest. This vest is stupid, blah, 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 blah. I said, honey, you don't have to wear the vest. You can just die. And I said that lovingly, and I meant it. I really did. It's like, you don't have to wear it. You can just die. And he was just so shocked that I said that. And so he was like, oh. And then he goes, well, when I left the hospital, the doctor's this and the doctor's that, and they don't know this and they don't know that. And I think this and I think that. I said, well, obviously you are so much smarter than the doctors, and you know so much more. And he goes, well, I didn't say that. I said, no, honey, that's exactly what you said. I said, you need to start listening to the words that come out of your mouth. And it was so liberating for me because it was loving, it was honest. I'm not mad, I don't think he was mad. I think he was kind of shocked, And like I said, I took him to his 2 doctor's appointments this week after that fact, and I'm just not putting up with his bullshit anymore, and I'm not giving back my own bullshit, which is the mirror.
Yep.
And the same thing with my son. My son gave it to him, and they'll have to mend their own ways, but that's their thing. That's not my thing. I just have to take care of me. But I really think, just being loving and authentic, and the fear is what makes us tell the lies or to not say something, in my opinion. That's how it was for me. And I thought I gave that up 20 years ago when I divorced him, but obviously I didn't. But I have now, and it's just so freeing. It's all the weight's off, and I think that honesty is like really, really important with ourselves and with everyone else.
Sure, absolutely.
So that's what I think.
Well, so it's going to take a little while for you to settle into the new Kathleen.
Yeah, I think so.
Discover it. The old habits will still come back a bit, but they'll drop out as you don't use them. Yeah. Right. Good stuff. Yeah.
It's so funny. I had a similar experience with my mom last week, where she's just always saying things and nobody says anything because they don't want to hurt her feelings or make her feel bad. And she was talking about how she'd been given to charities. My mom's getting ready to turn 91, and how there's a whole history there. But anyway, she's talking about how she's given to charities, and then she goes, but she can't anymore because, she's going to end up in the street, blah, blah, blah. This is my mom. And she goes, but I really want to give my children too. And they were my number one. I said, no, we're not, Mom. No, we're not. You'll give to strangers way before you give to your kids. And I said, nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Just stating fact. And it was, oh my God, I can't believe it just fell out of my mouth. And there wasn't any anger, or it was just like, enough of the bullshit, It was so freeing. It was so just blatantly real, without malice. And it was just incredible. So it's so funny to hear you having a similar experience.
Yeah. But don't expect those other people to change. They're gonna,
No.
buckle down, down and double up or whatever.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. It was just that I stopped stifling over here.
Yeah.
And so, and I was and then I was saying, if you really care, just don't end up in the street. She goes, oh, but the chair. I said, Mom, your kids just may not be able to bail you out. She goes, you want me to live in the street? I said, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that maybe don't put them in an uncomfortable, awkward position where they can't help you. And it's like, now I don't know if they can or not, if that's true, or, it's just what was coming out of my mouth was uncensored.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking later on, how compassionate is that? Because for years, our whole lives, people are just letting her live in this delusion that people are just going to keep bailing her out of things. And I thought, wow, as an afterthought, wow, how compassionate to stop lying to her.
Yeah.
Or allowing her to believe something that probably isn't true.
Mm.
I loved hearing your story, Jenny and Kathleen. Kathleen, I just want to say, as you were speaking, my body became so excited for your honesty and like the hilarity of how you just spoke back to your husband, clearly like a very kind of cheeky answer. And yeah, something in me just felt very excited for what you did.
Thank you.
Yeah, what excited me was that discovery, that you discovering yourself like that in a beautiful way. I love it. Yeah. Okay.
My experience is it's not even about what was said, because it's not like there was even a difference to be made. It's more about this energy was freed up. And I was feeling that too, Kathleen. It's just this freed up expression of appropriateness it's just relieved.
Mm.
I used to call myself Saint Jenny Jesus. Saint Jenny Jesus, she wouldn't do anything rude or mean or oh Lord.
Mm. You're in deep contemplation there, Jen. Tell us what's going on for you. You're muted.
There we go. I found it. The button.
Yeah.
I think I always look like I'm in deep contemplation or some kind of fear or fright response or something like that. But it's just that resting face. What's going on for me? So this is my first time with this group. Hello, everybody. It's nice to see you. I've seen some of you, watched you on YouTube and things like that. So I have been kind of following this stuff probably for coming up for a year, although it had been longer than that. But I guess until I found Angelo, I didn't really understand what it was talking about exactly. And now I think I do. I think I understand that on a conceptual level, but I wouldn't say that I've seen through self at this stage, or yeah, who knows. I'll tell you a little bit about where I'm at with my life, and I point out the back here at these trees. I have found myself about 6 years ago, sort of quite by accident, looking after a little forest, a little remnant native forest in the middle of the South Island, New Zealand. And it has felt to me like the forest manifested me to look after it. It sort of definitely needs some care. It's about 10 hectares, which I don't know what that is in acres exactly, but yeah, maybe 60 acres or something like that. And it's in a place, a very, very rural, very isolated, very, very farming kind of place where I don't feel all that comfortable. There's another place in New Zealand that I feel is my sort of spiritual home, if you like, where I'm with my tribe. And here I felt very out of place, a bit of a fish out of water here. But I do have a lot of really good friends here now. But I've really just surrendered to what it seems life has decided for me. So rather than it feeling like it was my decision to stay here, I've just kind of gone, okay, this seems to be what I need to do. And although it doesn't feel like the decision that I would make for myself, I'm going to just stay here and do that. And so I've done quite a few things in the last few years that have been kind of a surrender to what doesn't necessarily feel like my own, what the Jen character would think of as her own best interests, sort of thing. So I feel like on some level, this kind of non-duality stuff is happening to me or with me or in and around me. But I haven't quite seen through the identity. I'm slowly, trying to drop the identity with thought and various other things, everything. So I guess that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that. Thank you for that. That's a good, pretty complete picture of the outside of you, anyway. Yeah. How about you, Rosie? How's things for you?
Hi, everyone. It's also my first time here, and I'm happy to be here. And I like, I don't know how the calls go, but I see that people just kind of speak up. But thank you for asking. And I was thinking, well, I think I'll speak up now, and then you asked me. So I have. I don't know where to start. This has been a long journey for me, like 54, 56 years of a lifetime of seeking. But I feel like the seeker is a thing of the past now. I always felt like I'm a seeker. I'm a seeker. I was it's really hard to know where to start or just to talk about where I am right now. But I've had a lifetime of the focus has been meditation as a transcendental meditation teacher at the age of like 18. And kind of been through a whole trajectory of thinking that would lead me to enlightenment, and then kind of giving up on that after 20 years or so. I never gave up on meditating because I loved the experience so much, but I felt like, well, maybe this is it. But it didn't feel like what I thought it was going to be, and I realized that it doesn't. feel like that anyway. But 7 years ago, I found non-duality through Muji, and it re-inspired me again. I feel like it was the first time anyone ever told me that this this stillness that I was loving, experiencing, sitting in every day of my life was actually who I am. And it just opened up a whole world. It like just kind of tweaked my world of just like, oh, this is right here, right now. This isn't something I'm trying to get to. And I already have this. And then continued kind of absorbing myself completely in that teaching until it felt like it was reaching a stale place where I just like, you know, I must be missing something, or I felt like I needed to just listen to other teachers. So I've just been following whoever, comes up, Rupert Spira and Eckhart Tolle and Angelo and lots of others, just kind of, getting absorbed and then moving on and feeling kind of fickle, like, oh, this doesn't work anymore. I need to find something new. So right now I'm going through the fetters with Prunella and Todd, and
Oh, good one. Yeah.
and I just feel like I found a new home, and it's like I feel like I'm in kindergarten again because I'm just being able to look at things that I never even knew were there and
Mm.
didn't know I had to look at because I feel so established in the stillness,
Mm.
but the stillness is there when I'm still.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I'm in my daily, life, I forget about it most of the time.
Yep.
So that's kind of where how do I remember and how does this stay in the forefront the way it is like right now when I'm talking about it? When I talk about it, it just comes into the forefront. And I guess that is seeing through self, because that's kind of what it feels like. It feels like I'm just this indescribable. I don't know. I lose my ability to talk about it when I'm talking in it, or
Yep.
or with people that can get what I'm talking about. Um, but the fetters are just amazing. They're just amazing how they have just slow everything down and get you to see things that you're automatically doing that you just didn't know you were doing. So I've been looking for someone to talk to for years. Like, who do I talk to? I didn't know how to find someone. I learned about Liberation Unleashed. Then I learned about Pranilla, and she keeps saying you need someone, and I'm like, yes, I need someone. Yes, I'm so happy to hear how much she encourages everyone to find friends or a guide or a group, and she keeps recommending to come here. So that's why I'm here.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. She is really good. She's such a clever lady and yeah, so authentic as well. Yeah. But what you experience, I see it during my seeking days. My experience with the non-duality people gave me one thing, just one thing I got out of that was a really big thing, and that was that it's possible for me back in those days, I used to use the word enlightenment. I would say it's possible for me to get enlightened. That's what they showed me. But boy, did I get frustrated. I never got what you got from that crowd. But since I've seen lots of people who do get what they're offering, or what that stillness that you talk about, now, however we describe it, but a lot of them will describe it as
You're breaking up for me. I don't know if you are for everyone else, but I don't know.
shitty
I
internet.
can't,
Mm.
I'm getting every other word of what you're saying.
Okay, maybe I need to get a bit closer to this.
Is
Um,
everyone
okay
else
for
here
me.
okay?
Yeah, I can hear Vince very clearly.
all right, good. Um, the problem with getting, and I shouldn't call it a problem, that what you got from non-duality is that you leapfrog a lot of stuff. So if you use the Feta model, you end up, nothing's clean either. You end up playing around with something like Feta 8, and you've just missed out on all of a lot of the earlier Fetas. Certainly the first one, the non-self, might fall as well, or might not. But all of that other stuff that goes on in between those two is still there. And so when you go and you listen to Penilla and you're talking about those early Fetas, all of a sudden you discover that there's a lot of stuff that's there.
Yeah.
Where it still could be described as identification. Now it's just habit. A lot of it's just habit. But until you drag it out of the dark and look at it, it's going to stay there. And that's really what's happening, at the moment. So yeah, you've got your feet in two worlds. That's a bit of a trick, that one. But
Yeah.
yeah, I get good feelings about you though. You're in a place that is open, as I see it. And that's beautiful. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, and for all you guys, the new people as well here. Look, this group really informal. There are no rules. Well, there is one rule, and that is don't put your hand up if you want to talk. Just jump in if you get a space. That's, if we talk over each other, we'll sort that out. It'll happen. So yeah, no, there's nothing now. And if you don't want me to call you out, if there's I'll try and get to everybody throughout the meeting, but if you don't want to, just tell me you don't want to. Or some people turn up and, like Paul, for example, and they don't turn their video on, I'll leave them alone. If they haven't got their video on, I know they don't want to discuss anything. They just want to lurk. They were going to absorb it by osmosis. That's fine too. Yeah. But if you're there and you're quiet, I'll pick on you if you don't speak up, unless you tell me you don't want to. Yeah. So you guys, the two of you who are new, have watched videos before, so you get a bit of an idea about what we go on about and so on.
Yeah.
And I just remind everybody, we don't want to philosophize. What we want to do is reflect on our experiencing, and that's where the juice is. That's where we're going to change. That feels so good. Yeah.
I just have to say again that I'm just so grateful to have a place to come and talk about this and reflect with other people. And I just feel like a whole new world has opened up for me where it's not just about watching and listening, it's a
Yep.
community
It
of
is.
people that are all up to this beautiful process.
Yep. And it feels like family to me, you know, like, well, family. It feels better than family. It's a special family, you know, because there is a lot of authenticity here. People will tell you stuff that they wouldn't tell their spouse, and that's fine. Yeah. Anyway, enough of the woo-woo stuff. What's
Jen, I have a question for you.
Yes, go ahead.
You know, you said that there was a period or a point in your life where you accepted that the forest chose you.
Yeah.
Can you expand that, or do you think it's possible to expand that to your breakfast cereal chooses you, or you know, everything else in your life also chooses you?
I love that question. I certainly can expand it to, yeah, a lot of different things choosing me, or having been I've definitely had this kind of idea, a bit of a woo-woo idea of, you know, the universe, let's say, choosing things for me. And that's also led to some interesting situations where there's been a question of whether I just haven't had the courage to say no to things. So that's, yeah, I mean, that's kind of separate from what your question just was, but I certainly, yeah, there's been a lot of things, and definitely in the last, so I've lived here now for 6 years, and in that 6 years, there's been a huge amount of different things for me that have happened in that kind of way. For example, a dog who's sitting here that I inherited, that again, I sort of wouldn't have chosen to have another full-time dog, but I did, and that's been wonderful. I've also in these last years, so throughout my life, I've had a very profound experience with depression. And I know, well, for me, that has been, I've now seen it very much as a it's very complex, but very deeply entwined with thought-based stuff that's made it worse. So so I guess my current ideas or understanding of what that might have been in my life was feelings that arose that I then exacerbated or made bigger through thought, which then led into a very, very deep kind of depressive state for a very long time, which was all kind of narrative stuff, which also leads into one thing that I have been thinking about how to bring up or broach in these kinds of meetings, which for me and perhaps some of the women here might be able to help me. So I have definitely had very intense hormonal cycles and shifts, obviously, you know, as we all do throughout my life, but such that, you know, often for what seems like a good half of my life, like 2 weeks a month, my life is feeling pretty, or I am feeling pretty suppressed and down, which is where all these thoughts come about, you know, that I'm always like this and I'm not a very interesting person, you know, whatever the narrative is, which can change again quite quickly. In the other 2 weeks of the month, I can feel fantastic and like I'm, you know, crushing it. But because that's such a, because it's almost like a 50-50, I have spent a lot of my life thinking that I am depressed. And it's only been in the last few years that I've done a lot of work on my thinking processes and actually found myself coming out of that. But am still seeing these feelings that arise that I'm now able to separate a bit from the narrative. And just getting back to your question, James, has that chosen me? Yes. Probably everything. I mean, the biggest thing for me in my life now, I think, is wanting to kind of open up. Sorry, maybe I can explain this by a previous story. I used to be, for quite a while, I was very into activism and, you know, fighting against the system and all that sort of stuff. And with all due respect to all of my friends who still do that, I started to see that as part of the same system, like an actual intrinsic part of the system that I disagreed with. The fighting against it was a really important part of it. And so, you know, I'm just trying to not play that game at all, because I feel like the best thing I can do for the planet is to sort myself out and you know, get open here. And that will actually have a better effect than anything I tried to do previously.
Mhm.
I don't know if any of that.
No, that's fantastic. And
Oh.
thank you for sharing all that. And I'm sure the women can come and talk to you about things that I know nothing about. but you meant, as you talk there, you said you divided your life into 2 different bits, you know, the 2 different weeks of the month.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Is there an underlying you, or there's an underlying something that's the same through the whole month, or are you actually 2 different people?
The reason I pause is because I'm thinking, is this something I think or is this something I know? Having been listening to this non-duality stuff and meditation stuff for quite a long time, the immediate thing I wanted to say was, yes, there is an underlying thing all the time. And I'd kind of say that that is just the being alive of life. I don't think that I'm two separate people. Yeah. Yeah, so I think there is an underlying something throughout, for sure.
James, can I jump in quickly on the hormonal thing, and then
Jump in.
you
Jump
can
in.
keep the conversation. I just wanted to say very quickly, Jen, I'm with you on that up and down stuff, and I also suffer from endometriosis, which is very painful periods, blah, blah, blah. PMS, what helped me, and maybe you could Google it later, and maybe you've come across it, is just finding out Eckhart Tolle's teaching about the pain body, and that women energetically are very open to all the pain that women have felt over centuries during this time. And that energy field, because we're energetically open, sucks us and takes us into very dark places. And he talks about being present, but I used to have suicidal thoughts, and it took me a long time to connect the dots. I thought there's something wrong with me. Why, And I think it's so important for women to talk about this, that there is something energetically that opens. And now I'm in perimenopause and I'm on progesterone, and, that helps me so much with the pain. But yeah, there's something that James, and no matter how awakened they will be, they will not probably be able to experience this extremely volatile, almost like something else has taken over your body. That's the feeling I got.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in on that as well. I used to have extremely painful cycles and very moody. And I would have these times where I couldn't be touched. The nerves were so sensitive. I was like a China doll. And what happened was, when James, he asks, has this chosen you? My experience is that it is me. So there's actually no choosing. It's like, does my shadow choose me? Do I choose my shadow? Do I look in the mirror and choose what I'm seeing, or is it just the scene? And these experiences are me. And so what started unraveling was, first off, stop resisting it. Because even when I can very connect with people to where I feel. And my first reaction when it's uncomfortable is to try to resist and say, oh no, that's not my energy, disconnect, whatever. But what I'm finding is it is because it's happening over here, because it's being experienced over here, and to stop fighting it and to sit with it and look at where I'm pushing it away. And then also look at what I'm making it mean. What really unraveled the hormonal thing for me was looking at issues with men. They showed up, and what I made it mean about myself as a woman, about men in the world, about relationships. And as those unraveled, the body system unraveled, and all of that went away. PMS, everything gone within a year. And I did nothing and took nothing other than looked at what stories were coming from this resistant, squeezed, contracted energy. And it all unraveled. And so when I'm speaking to someone and I can feel, almost nauseous sometimes. And my first thing is, oh, get away, right? And instead, what I'm practicing doing is just staying open and letting it blow through me and looking at the resistance to it, because that's that seems to cause more stress in the body. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you both, Cleona and Jenny. Yeah, that's quite huge. I think I'm going to have to go back and listen to it again. Yeah, and that's really interesting about the pain body stuff. I hadn't realized that the idea of the pain body included past energetic stuff as well.
There's another book I read which helped me a lot. Sorry, I won't be very long. I'll be very concise because I realize we need to get back into awakening stuff. But I can't remember. I think it's something about blood, how blood, it was a really good title. I'll share it on the Facebook group if I remember. But basically, the theory was that during this time, previously in centuries, women would look after each other's children, do tasks for each other. And during this time, the women would rest. In the society that we live in, we don't get to rest. We don't get to take time off work. And so we become really irritable. If somebody touches us or demands from us, that was the time when we were not responsible for anyone else and we could just bleed. So that, the PMS is a way of telling you, hey, you need to just take care of yourself for a bit. That's how I interpreted it. And so I became better at explaining to my husband, just to let you know, I need things to be extra tidy the next couple of days. I just don't want to, just be mindful. I won't schedule things in my diary with friends. I won't socialize. I'll just keep it easy for me. And that helped me to understand that. But again, anyway. Okay,
Yeah,
back to
I want to add that was a big part of the unraveling for me too, was seeing where I was constantly not speaking up and not saying, hey, I just need to be alone right now. I need quiet time right now. There wasn't that taking care of myself. There was that chronic, always feeling like I had to be there at the whims of others. And yeah, as I started loving myself more and making myself my needs equally important, that was definitely a big, huge factor of unraveling what I was making life mean.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
like to throw in one here too. And I know it's not the same story, and so this is a tricky one, how you take me with this. But I've been married this year 57 years. And
congratulations.
around about 20 years ago, I'm only guessing that figure, around about 20 years ago, my wife went through menopause. Up until that point, she experienced what you guys were talking about. She was a monster for 2 weeks of every month. And I lived with that throughout that whole time. And I couldn't help her. I couldn't do anything about it. The best thing I could do was leave her alone. But menopause, what a wonderful relief that was for her. That ended all of that stuff. It's been so great ever since. Without that, we don't know how far out what we're feeling extends, how far out, how other people are affected by it. But it certainly is. It certainly is. We're never alone in this, whatever it is. Everybody around us is involved. Yeah.
Yeah, I certainly don't think that the whole menstruation thing is just a woman's experience, because obviously the men in our lives are also going through stuff when we are. And yeah, I'm lucky now with the work that I'm doing that I actually can take a bit more time, and I am much more honouring of my own cycles, and I recognise that so I do just rest often, and although I'll still have a bit of a narrative going about, I'm really unproductive and I should be doing something, I am able to let that go and not listen to it so much, because I do know that there are other days that I'm super productive and it all kind of evens out. So I do allow that. While you two were talking, Cleona and Jenny, I've had this body thing for quite a while. I used to get it a lot when I was driving, this sort of my head shaking. And for quite a while, I thought it might be some kind of, I don't know, start of Parkinson's or something along those lines. Until I was doing a meditation last winter, and it came up really strongly. And I think it's some kind of energetic thing. Yeah, Cleona, when you started talking about the pain body in the past, generations of women's pain or whatever, I could just feel it coming on. I don't even really know why I'm saying that, but just sharing it.
No, Jen, I can feel that. That's the energy I can feel, and it's extremely intense. And I have to actually almost hyperventilate through it. So I can feel that energy. And what it seems to me is the nervous system is wound very tight. And so when you start getting that shaking, it's probably it releasing. I would just try to breathe into that and notice where the contraction is. Just notice where the contraction is and just breathe into it. It's just the nervous system is just wound, and it hurts very much. Yeah. But the body will shake when it releases, but just as best as you can, just sit with the contractions of either the trying to push away from it or the squeezing onto it. They come in both directions, and just be there as a witness to that and breathe into that for a while, for here and there.
Thank you. Yeah.
So Cleona said something that I want to jump on, and that is get back to the waking up stuff, right? Okay, there's nothing that's not part of that. Absolutely.
Yeah. I know. But in the past, we've gone off topic, and there has been feedback. So I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't like rambling off,
It's all relevant, it's all good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to say too, the forest chose you because you chose the forest. The forest is you. And how you see the forest is a reflection of you seeing yourself. It's a mirror. So there, you healing the forest is the forest is healing you. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I totally know that. This forest has healed me, and is still healing me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a reflection of you. It is you. It's like an extension of that.
But Jen, don't exclude the breakfast cereal.
Yeah.
I love that you talk about my breakfast. I'm loving my breakfast at the moment. I go through phases where I guess everybody does, just have the same thing for ages and ages and ages. And I've got onto this. I have a smoothie for breakfast, which is awesome. So that chose me. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
I'm happy for that.
And as you were talking, as you were telling us your stories, it's that what you're saying, I'm getting tongue-tied here. What you're talking about is absolutely good stuff. It's relevant stuff, okay? Because not even because of what it's about, but because of the fact that you're getting something out. You're expressing you're being authentic. You're expressing something, and that's really good. The real juice for you is to every now and again just go and examine what you feel about what you're saying, right? Your relationship to to what you're saying is more valuable than what you're actually saying. If you can, you get that little twist.
Oh, look, totally. Like, so speaking and not just in public, speaking at all, I have a very strong reaction to, and it was something that somebody in your group said in a previous thing that I heard, that yeah, I have a real kind of shame reaction to the things that I say, and yeah, I am very, very conscious, probably over conscious, very, have been very self-conscious for a very long time about what I say and how I come across and what people think and all of those sorts of ridiculous things. But I've also really put myself out there a lot in my life, like hugely. I mean, I've done speeches to 4,000 people. That wasn't so difficult because those 4,000 people probably were all like I was advocating for them. So they, clapped and cheered. That was great. Recently, I mean, I've mentioned this in Todd and Penilla's group. I've actually just resigned from a committee that I was on for 5 years, which was extremely difficult for me. It's supposed to be a collaborative process, but actually it's very political. And so I was in a very uncomfortable situation, talking at a table with people who I know see the world in a very, very different way from me. And I really hoped, and especially when I started getting into non-duality and stuff, I really wanted to be able to just bring a different thing into that room and to really see that those people know that they are me, they're part of me, that we're all, and all of that. But in the end, I just couldn't get there quick enough. Like the whole experience was always so painful for me. And I mean, reflect on it. I reflect and reflect and reflect, but then far too much. It was taking,
Yep. So when you were talking and just before James asked his question, or as a response to James, you were saying, you alluded just very briefly to what I would describe as boundary setting. You where you said you had previously been unable to say no to people, and here you're giving us an example of being able to say no.
So it took me 5 years to say no to that committee, and I'm really glad I have in the end, but I actually wanted to right from the start. I fought with myself about saying no because I really wanted to just say no, but I ended up justifying it to myself why I should do it, why the universe was choosing this for me. And why I should do it. And I sat there for 5 years, really like having a really hard time with it. And to the extent that like, I really feel like that committee has actually made it much harder for me to feel like I belong in this place where, I'm surrounded, you know, I came in here really the greenie activist with very long dreadlocks and sort of, you know, had surrounded by this intensive dairy farming, which is sort of the big thing in New Zealand. That's, you know, and then every month I would get this shot in the arm of being in battle with, you know, the kind of people in this area. So this whole, you know, I'm very clear that a sense of not belonging is all about me. That's, you know, that's my stuff to work through in this process. But yeah, not belonging, shame, all those sorts of things are, yeah, my.
You know, bringing it full circle to where James was asking you is, are there two of you or one of you? And you can see that there's one of you, you said, the one that witnesses, the one that looks and watches the mood shift every 2 weeks, or the activism, or the conflict and the conquering. But there's one that's at peace, that watches all the experiences of the different personalities playing out. And that's where the peace lies, is in that one.
Yeah, and I can get back to a place of peace very easily and quickly when I think about it, or, you know, when I put my attention there.
Yeah, there's getting lost in the personalities and the programs and the stories of activism and conflict and conquering, and then there's the one that watches all that happening. And it is a focus. It's, where am I settling? And the energetic system, the nervous system is all over it, or there's this one that watches while that unwinds and plays out.
That stuff that you said, Jenny, about the nervous system, like I'm really conscious that, yeah, I am wound very tightly.
So who's wound tightly? And this is where I'm taking you. Who is
okay,
wound?
That
Where
it's
are
kind
you?
of like my body is wound tightly.
Yes. The witness
this-
is not wound.
This
The
body.
witness is getting caught up with the winds and thinks it's, and misidentifies with that, and then thinks it's, oh, that's me wound up. But that's what I'm saying, is turn your attention back to that presence, and that allows the disidentifying with the wound up nervous system of that personality and that story and that conflict and that conquering.
And so for the body then,
It'll just do its thing, and the witness is going to watch, but it's not going to misidentify that that's you. You're the one witnessing it, and you think it's you, and it feels like it's you. But as you just keep remembering where your focus is on the one that watches, it'll start to disidentify with that, and it's going to allow that body personality to unravel that tightness. Because you won't keep thinking it's you and keeping it going. You'll allow it to just play out and unravel as you stop identifying with it.
gotcha. Yeah.
When the universe throws you a ball, Jenny, Jen rather, sorry, you don't have to catch it. You can watch it go by.
Yeah.
And there might be an echo. And the mind might want to grab it because it's so familiar. But like James says, you don't have to identify. And it may feel like a loss when you stop identifying too. There may be certain feelings that go along with it as it's passing you by.
Yeah. Hey, James, I just want to thank you for asking that first question. And helping me to properly open up. Yeah, appreciate that.
It was all you.
I am an early bed person, but I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone on the group for the recordings, like Kathleen said, and not Kathleen, like Rosie said, and to Alan, who I think of as a sniper with the sharpest gun. Because the doubt has finally, oh my God, after nearly a year of working with Ilona on Liberation Unleashed, the doubt has finally like eased up, and the seeking has eased up, and it's just like, it's so much nicer, the experience, you know, of the journey of fetters or whatever, like that agitation. it's so nice not to have that. And the turning point was, there was this thought that kept coming that said, I don't get it, I don't get it. And I thought, like, I could see that it's just, again, like the mind trying to understand this, whatever, you know. I could see that that's just a thought, and it keeps coming, like it kept coming and saying, I don't get it, I don't get it, I don't get it. And then I saw that it's just like something coming for me to identify with, and it doesn't have that same strength anymore. I don't know, something shifted. Yeah, so I just wanted to say a big thank you. And I'm going to bed soon.
Thank you.
Well, in terms of life throwing curved balls, forgive the look here, folks. I'm in a hospital bed. Life has put a big stop to things at the moment. I came a cropper on the stairs and have ruptured my quadricep fairly severely. So it's an intriguing experience, I've got to say, just to see what's unfolding here. It's so good to be with you anyway, and hearing everyone this morning, and love to you all.
Get better soon.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? That's the thought. Get better soon. You know, why has this happened? It's strange actually. There's not an anxiety about what's happening. I mean, things are going to be so different, and I'm going to have to depend on people that you know, that really goes against the grain. But yet, there's okay. We'll have to see how this works out. And
Which part of the quad? Which that your whereabouts is that? Is that your leg?
I'll show you.
It sounds like a dinosaur. It sounds like you've ruptured a dinosaur.
Oh, wow.
I can't see.
The quadricep is the big one at the top of your leg in the front.
That's it. Thanks, James. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. So
The leg in
And
the
there
front.
happens to be 4 muscles that run down the front of your leg. That's why they're called quadriceps.
yeah.
Oh,
It's
Yeah.
such a amazing journey when you're floating in the unknown of what's next, and just watching thoughts and stories trying to be made up, and even a thought get well. It's like, what is not well? It's just
That's right.
happening.
yeah. I realized that when I said that. How long does it take to repair?
Well, this is the intriguing thing. I mean, I've been told it's going to take 6 months on crutches, and I don't know. But it's just a total rearrangement of life. And look, in the bigger picture, it's not a big deal compared to what a lot of other people have to go through. So yeah, it's just intriguing how life. I've had this sense that I've needed to haul up and just stop. So I think life has said, well, you haven't been listening, so here you go, buddy.
Yeah, that's what my ministry about. I think I had to stop, and it stopped me.
Yes,
I was.
That's right. Yeah,
Anyway, love to
painful?
you, Alan, and I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, James. And I did have a thought, you know, you said one time that, Alan, if you were in reach, I would have punched you. And perhaps this is the universe helping you out.
I was being metaphorical. It sounds like the universe has been literal.
That's right. I love you for it, man. Oh, dear. Yeah.
It's so funny because now I'm like looking and the thoughts are going, where am I not listening? Where am I not listening? And it's like they're already start. So thank you.
Yeah.
Your
And-
attitude is refreshing, Alan. I've been there, and so I'm in a place where, you know, after surgeries and that type of thing, and so I know it's hard, and you know, yet you seem to have a really good attitude, acceptance, and I know you're working with it, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I like to tell myself I've got acceptance, but it'll be tested, I'm sure. You know, this is only day 2.
Every month,
Yeah.
and this too.
What's,
Time.
what's that, Yvonne?
I said we're tested all the time, and this
Exactly.
too. Every
Exactly.
this too.
That's right.
I have a question about the toxic starting point that I'm up to that, you know, point in the second fetter. And I feel like when I listen to the 3 categories that I'm in all 3 of them. Is that a common experience?
Yeah. Yeah, you can't
Okay.
really delineate any of this stuff into separate things, that everything overlaps, everything is intermingled, for sure.
Mhm.
And it's a concept. Remember that it's a concept. It's not an actual thing, although it points to something that was actual. But you know, what's really interesting, especially about toxic starting points, is it doesn't matter what actually happened back there. It's what you responded to at the time and what got hardwired into your body, or what stories developed as a way of protecting yourself at the time. It's nothing to do with what actually happened. It's all got to do with how you interpreted it at the time.
Right.
Yeah. So you got to remember that it might feel a bit dreamlike, but it doesn't matter. You responded to it, and that's what is actual. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because my physical body symptoms fall into the first category of the aggressive,
Yeah. Bully.
but I don't feel like my personality is, so maybe it's repressed, or, you know, or that type of thing. But you know, because my father was aggressive, so you know, and I was afraid of him, and you know, most of my personality probably developed because, you know, of trying to keep him happy. So, you know, it could kind of maybe come in the reverse order
Well,
or
it's
something.
a lot more complex than that. So it's interesting, isn't it, that here you are trying to placate him. So you're developing one way of being, but at the same time, you're learning from him how to be. Yeah, so that's
Right.
where we get that passive aggressive bully thing gets going at the same time as we're trying to please people and not get them angry, and so on. So yeah, it's complicated, really complicated.
Yeah.
Also, I made up that I wasn't allowed to be angry because I didn't want to be like them. So I would be passive aggressive and a big bully, but it took me a while to see where was I being aggressive. And even it turned into aggression toward myself through
Absolutely.
shaming and guilt. And so it's so not black and white, but just being quiet and allowing it to be shown, the answer to be shown where, because I've discovered I'm everything. And then there's certain ways that I play out. And it's just really just not using the mind to try to understand it, but allowing it to come in and be shown and revealed.
That's so important what you're saying there, Jenny. There's someone who went through the gate about 12 months ago, and I was just speaking with her earlier today, and Rosie, there was a resonance with what she said about her childhood. She had a very negative father, and it was like this huge weight on her shoulders. And she was with a friend recently, and she was doing some breath work, and all of a sudden she felt it. Well, it wasn't all of a sudden. Yes, it was. It really came to her as a surprise. There was this deep grief, just a deep grief, and she said she was so grateful she was in a situation where she could verbalize it, and the moaning, and it had been so subtle and so hidden, but as Jenny was saying, just to let it unfold. And as a result of that, she says she feels like a different person. So it wasn't the thoughts so much that they're pointers, no doubt, but it's that deep sensation that is our current experience of a past, our current experience of a past event, and just to be willing to let that unfold when you feel it.
Well, that's actually really interesting, because last night when I was listening to Todd coaching a woman named Tonka, and so I went with the process of being with what was uncomfortable in my body, and throughout my life I have this discomfort that I never understand, like
Mhm.
it shows up in like being overwhelmed, or never feeling like I have enough time, or just this kind of uneasiness that's always there, but I kind of push aside. And so I sat there just feeling where it was in my body.
Beautiful.
It's in my heart area, and I started to feel like there's someone crying
Morning.
in there.
Right.
And
Sorry,
then I
folks.
immediately
Sorry.
felt,
I've just got to go, folks. I've got
Oh.
a nurse coming. So
okay.
sorry
Thank
about that.
you.
May all go well.
Yes.
Mm. Keep going, Rosie. Yeah.
And so the fact that Alan's just talking about grief, I felt this little girl, she's crying, or just an energy of crying. And, like my father's yelling at my mother, and I'm hiding in my room. Like, that's just the energy of just like, I'm just here crying. I don't know if I'm crying for my mother, if I'm crying because I'm scared of my father. It's just someone's yelling and I'm crying. And I feel like that is what I've been carrying, not knowing. It's this deep grief. And it just, every time I feel it, it feels surprising to me. Like, there's someone in there crying, like, and yet that's what it is. There's some kind of a grief. I mean, I hadn't thought of it as grief. I guess that's just another label. But I've been giving it
Significant
space.
label.
Pardon me?
Rosie, I want to say, yeah, I just get a good feeling listening to you right now, expressing that. Like, I can feel you in what you're saying. And I have a sense that it's, well, how it's like, it's right, you're right there in exactly, and I get curious together with you as I listen to you say that, and also appreciative, because it's like you're bringing through that part of experience that I can relate to, and I think all of us in different ways, but you're basically right now, in a way, you're showing something about being with it.
Yes, and I can feel it too. I can feel it. You're taking me right into that agitation that comes up a lot if I'm sitting still for too long, and usually has me go up and eat or distract and you're taking me right there. It's so beautiful. So just, if you want to continue, I think it's amazing of
Well-
because it doesn't matter if it's the mom or the dad. It's that core.
Yeah. And I mean, my dad was a very loving man and I adored him, but he had a temper. And you know, and this is something now that I it's not like I never knew it, but I'm feeling it now for the first time. Like really feeling it and letting it just be as big as it needs to be because and that was the process that Todd took this woman Tonka through to allow it to just be like where is it? It's here and it can be as big as the body, but where's the body? You know, the body is bigger and you know expanding and is everywhere. I mean, the room, the town, the country, that you know, I mean, the body is just not a physical thing. So that energy just it it feels like it starts to dissolve or it starts to it changes when it gets bigger and it does. I mean, the crying is still there, but it just it actually starts to feel like a joyful experience.
Mhm. Mhm.
I love when Pranella talks about the joy of experiencing, and I've been kind of taking that with me throughout my day, looking for the joy of experiencing. And so, you know, I'm still exploring this. And as I'm speaking, I'm exploring it. So, yeah.
Very nice.
It's
I had an experience once that I think might be relevant for you here. And that was after a good friend of mine died. And it was only a month or two after I woke up. And what I discovered was that I did not have any grief, but I was overwhelmed with sadness. And what I discovered was that grief was sadness with a whole lot of stories attached to it.
Mm,
And when I let go of those stories about why it shouldn't have happened and all that stuff, when I let go of those stories, I was just left with pure sadness. I'm feeling it again now. And it's really, it's really sweet, that sadness. It
yeah.
is a lovely feeling. But it's just a body, pure expression of the body. It has no stories attached to it. It's just that's something that happens. There it is. It's just, and it's the whole body experience. It's just amazing how but it's like that energy you talked about. It goes out beyond the confines of the body. It spreads out more. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that describes that helps describe that this, you know, as I allow it to have as much space as it needs, it the story of it goes away.
Yeah.
So the little girl crying is part of a story.
Yes.
And then so the crying starts to dissipate. And I noticed that I'm kind of holding on a little bit to the crying because that feels good to release or, you know, or cry or something.
Yep. Yep.
But when I actually feel it, it's just, it doesn't really have a label.
No.
I don't know if it's even sad. It's
Yeah.
just there. It's like confusion or
Don't try and label it. That's a problem. So if we try and label it, what we're trying to do is put it in a box. And what we're trying to do is avoid what it's about. So any of this stuff that comes up, it's the content of it, what comes up, seems to be what it's all about, but it isn't. It's about our relationship to that. That's where it is all the time. So there's the crying, but how do you feel about that? That's the important one. And for you, that feeling about that was a bit confusing, but because there was some good there, as well as everything else.
Right,
The
right.
moment you try and label that, you're confining it, and it can't really be confined. It can't really be described in words. Labels don't do it. What you're looking at is much more fundamental than anything you can put words on. So
What I find,
go
sorry.
on.
It feels like it has a, like it wants to, because it's this, whatever this is, that has been causing a discomfort in my body my whole life.
Mhm.
Might be the source of my joint issues and, you know, all of the inflammation and all of, it's just this. So it feels like it needs to be released or something, even though it's confusing. Like it feels good and it feels like it needs to go.
well,
Well,
the mind thinks it has to do something with it. And the labels of describing it help bring you into it. And then once you're floating in it, if the mind is trying to understand it, it pulls it back out into a contraction. And
Okay.
then you just be with that. And then you be back in the floating of the sensations. And let go, because you notice that it's starting to contract, because the labels will bring us in or it'll start to bring us back out again. So if you start to feel it contract, you know it's, and then just relax back into and float in it. And the mind will say, I need to fix this. I need to do something with this. And you'll feel that contraction of the mind trying to, and then just be with that, what's happening, and then float just back in sensation. Because like you said, there's no body, there's no borders, there's just, and then you're floating there, and then you can watch the play of the mind, either trying to label or trying to understand. Describing it brings you in. Labels can be helpful. But once you're floating, you'll notice the labels trying to pull it back into form.
Mhm. Yeah, I guess the mind wants to know, does this need to dissolve?
Just
So
be with it.
as soon as you start wondering what it's about, that's a seductive thought trying to take you down some rabbit hole to take you away from it. Right. So every time you recognize that the mind is trying to give meaning to what's happening, just flick it away, just dismiss it. Just go, leave me alone for a moment. Tell the mind that, the thoughts that, you don't need to, and sink back into the unexplainable sensations and feelings that you've got.
And they'll morph and shift and change. There's nothing you'll need to do. You'll just float around in them and they'll do whatever they do, and you'll, and ultimately they shift, and they can turn, like you said, into like a bliss or not, or they turn into something else, and you just follow the what's happening. Even the contraction of trying to understand it is a what's happening. It's a whole dynamic thing.
Yeah, right now it just feels really blissful and everything's fading, you know, and it just very blissful, and leaving my mind out of it feels so much better.
Mm.
Yeah,
Any involvement of the mind is just trying to take you away from it.
yeah. Thank you.
But
That was a brilliant show, Rosie. Thank you.
Oh, hi,
Took off a lot for me. Hi. Who was that? Hi. Yeah, it resonated a lot with me, and some things that have been going on, and also what Vince said about grief, because I used to cry a lot in my last marriage, and my friend cries quite a lot and she enjoys it like a release. And I always think, oh God, there's something wrong with me. I don't have any emotions anymore. And then I watched this film, which again, films, I don't watch romantic films much, but I watched a romantic film. Someone recommended it, and it's called One Day. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but it brought up some grief, like I was like crying for 4 hours, and and apparently this is sweeping the country here. Like it's on TikTok, everyone's like saying they'll never be the same again after this film. It's really good. And just what Vince was saying there, that I was like, my God, this is grief. This is proper guttural grief, but just the insight with what you were saying, Vince, that it was actually just crying, but the stories were making it grief, because and there was such the stories were so victim, like I'll never have that, I've never had that, I'll never have it, I'm too old. And the stories were just taking me into, they were just never ending of like, will I ever stop crying from this? But really, it was just a bit of crying, but the stories were just continuing it and taking me down this long, winding, dark path of my life, my past life, or seemingly past life, of what's happened in my relationships and what I haven't had, and then spiral into the future about how it's always going to be like that. And, I've missed all my chances of anything ever good ever happening to me again. I mean, it's a nightmare, and yeah, I just thought I'd share it because it was quite an insight, because I look back and I think, what the hell went on that night? It was quite traumatic, really. But just realizing, a lot of it were just so caught up in the stories, which, I mean, it was a watershed, because there is a lot of child memories and teenage stuff really coming up, and it's quite a teenage film, really, So there's quite a lot of judging of like, oh, you're not a kid anymore, this shouldn't be affecting you, but it was a kind of watershed month for me of all that. Lots of old trauma coming up, and I was talking to Vince about it today as well. But yeah, it was just good to see how what stories can do. That'll be really useful for me. And what Jenny was saying about not letting them pull you out, because my mind always wants to know, if I'm ill, I'm on there Googling, what is it, what's this, what's that? And I've got a very inquisitive mind that, I don't like not knowing, which seems a bit weird on this path, because it's all about not knowing in a way, but I can get stuck. That is one of my little things that I can get stuck in if I don't catch it quickly. Especially when I'm ill, it can spiral me down.
Oh yeah. When we're tired or ill, we're much more susceptible to being triggered.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I just had a month of it with illness, and the things that I normally see very quickly of the mind become quite difficult to see, because the energy is so low. They don't seem as obvious, But yeah, thanks for that, for everyone's share. And Rose's share and all the shares back to her. It's very insightful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how no matter who's sharing, we can see some of ourselves in it. Almost always. It's just amazing. Yeah. And you know, people in here will just have a line, words will come out of their mouth, and you know, next thing you know, people that watch the video are going, "Wow, that really affected me," and they didn't even know it when they said it, you know, but it did. That's brilliant. Yeah, it's like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that interconnectedness is, and I'm a friend of Rose's anyway, so I do feel a lot of connection with that. And
Yeah, good one. Yeah.
beautiful.
Mm.
I have to go soon, guys, but there's something I've been wanting to say to Kathleen for ages, right from the beginning. So you remember right at the beginning, Kathleen, you said that you were trying to drop the word I. So rather than saying I am walking, you were just going walking or seeing. I wonder what would happen if you dropped the word walking and seeing as well. So you had the experience rather than putting a label on it.
Well, I'd say most of the time that's what I'm doing.
Oh,
Am I?
perfect.
But when I
Anyway.
catch myself thinking I am, it's like, oh, forget the I am and then just walking. But yeah, but thank you. We've
That's
come
okay.
a long way, James.
Oh, thank you. Anyway, I have to go. See you all. Bye.
Hi, James.
How are you going, Rita?
Hello. Um, no, now I'm good. Thank you. Yeah, this was beautiful. I've been holding back some tears. So now it just washed all over me. So thank you. I'm tired.
Mm. Isn't it amazing how somebody telling us their unpleasant experience, and they share that, and we can feel really good about it? Isn't that amazing? Isn't it?
Yeah.
How does it make us feel good when somebody's telling us something that's not good? Obviously not good. Yeah.
It's just like
Yeah.
exactly what I needed to open up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, why it feels good, I imagine, this is just what comes to mind, why it feels good is because we weren't hooked into the content of the story that was being told. We were hooked into the person sharing. We came in sideways, so to speak. You know, we didn't get lost in the story because it wasn't our story, but we did have that connection. We could feel that really strongly.
Feel it.
Yeah.
To really feel it, and sharing this makes it I think this deep sadness, it's easier when it's shared.
Mm. And if we can do that with ourselves as well, so when our mind is running a story, if instead of connecting with the content of the story, we connect with what's the message that story running is trying to tell us. You know, so we come in at 90 degrees to the actual content of the thing, and we look at it a bit kind of objectively. We're not objective really, but we're outside of the content of it, and we're looking at it, what is it telling us? And that's where the juice is all the time.
Yeah, set it free, kind of. That pops up. To let it out. For me, I think.
I think it's that we find ourselves in other people's stories always. And there's that interconnection when you can hear somebody and yeah, you see yourself in what they're saying. And it just feels beautiful. It's like that connection of what we've talked about before is like it's okay to be messy and it's okay to have running stories and we can talk about them and in a setting like this, and we just find each other in all of it. And I don't know, that's what I get from it.
Mm.
And I think like a lot of things that other people say is like what's going on in my mind as well. And it's yeah.
You know, that's so helpful because I'm feeling such agitation and anxiousness. It's all so intense. I'm having to breathe through it. And as you were speaking, Rita, I'm yes, just share it. Just share it. I don't even have to say it out loud like I am right now, but it got to the point where I was just, oh, share. It's okay. You don't have to not feel this because I can say it to you guys all day long. But when it's happening over here, right? And I could feel the resistance to it. Like I'm usually so calm and peaceful and I'm supposed to be calm and peaceful. And how come I can't get to the other side of this to calm and peaceful? I'm like, this is me too. This is this. I feel like I could just jump out of my skin, like I could throw up. The anxiousness and the intensity that's happening for me, and the mind wants to understand it and fix it and all those things. And I can be this too. I can be this too. And it does ease it. Thank you.
Oh. 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 Mm. Oh. 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 It's my love. It's for my son. I miss him. I miss him. It's been 10 years. I haven't seen him. I miss him. I'm sorry.
So Rita,
Oh,
what was it that Jenny said that pulled the plug out for you?
it's like she said it, that I'm allowed to express this,
Right.
that it's okay. Because every time I feel this, it's like another voice in my head saying, you're not allowed,
Yeah.
because you put yourself in this. It's my own fault. And then
On and on go the stories, yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Oh,
But underneath all those stories, there's a big feeling of loss.
grief and loss and longing, and I know it's my love for him. It's love. Actually, so
It's
it's
so
kind of
beautiful
beautiful,
because
actually.
we use these stories to stop from feeling like, oh, it's just a story, right? No,
Yeah, that's a beautiful story.
it's still under there. We're there. We might as well dive in and mend it.
Yeah. Oh, and I think it's like my pain in my body just like, yeah, it's a bit easier. Hello. Hi. Hi, Yvonne.
Thank you.
Hi.
So is mine.
Hi.
Mine is better too. Thank you. I just wrote it. Just here I am. This is what's happening. Who we're
Oh.
supposed to be is so exhausting.
Hmm. Yeah, it comes and goes.
So, Yvonne, it would be easy for you to say that you were carried away by Rita's emotions, but they were your emotions, weren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. And you were right there with Rita all the way. You were
Yeah.
absolutely carried by her release.
Yeah, I was. So
And the magic is her release is my release.
Mm.
You know, so much in my life I've fought connecting with other people because, oh, I don't want to. But oh my goodness, we're such one in that moment. And even though it was probably a different experience of sensation, the oneness and the healing of being there together was just amazing. Thank you.
thank you.
What I wanted to say,
Oh,
can you hear me? I never know if I'm on or not.
Yeah, we can
I
hear
hate
you.
this damn phone. Anyway, I don't, did I lose y'all?
Just the video.
Okay. I'll fix the video after I stop talking. Um, you know, the interesting thing about all of this is that I think what this group does is it holds the space you know, it holds space so that the authentic self or whatever can express, because so often people say, oh, I'm fine, you know, or you know, dismiss, dismiss, dismiss. The brain wants to say, oh, I'll take care of it later, I'll understand it, or why. But in this setting, in this group, I find we can hold space for each other, and to me that's miraculous. So I'm going to try and find my video, but I just needed to say that.
Yeah, it's so true.
Don't go to sleep on us, Don. I wanted to ask you a question. Then that was, have you noticed anything different after your week-long Lisa Cairns retreat? You're just back a few days now, so this will be the right time to notice if anything's happened.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, I did nod off. I nodded off yesterday too. I was going to ask a question of whatever, so whoever was talking on Saturday, and I was like, oh no, I fell asleep during that. I better not. I might have missed something. Anyway, it's funny. Yeah, I'm a bit slower, I think, since the end of the week. So I've noticed that, which is good. Yeah. So that's, yeah, I haven't got completely lost in the last day and a half or 2 days since I came back. Well, I only came back like less than a day ago, actually, but yeah, so that's a bit better. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
So I'm hoping to kind of, maintain that by, by teeth gritted effort, Vince. That's the only way of doing that, right?
My hair prickled the moment you said maintain that. I thought, oh, you know, you're going to work at that, aren't you? You know, that's just going to chase it away, isn't it?
It's just, I mean, I know I'm going to argue with you I'll argue with you until I realize that you're right, of course, right? But like, if I'm not vigilant, I will go off at hours and hours and hours of ruminating or just thinking about stuff that makes me upset. And I have to drag myself back from that because I'm so used to doing it. Or that's what it seems like I have to do. I don't know.
Yeah. And I get that. I do get that. I don't. I certainly don't deny that that's the way you feel.
Yeah.
Of course, telling you anything different is only a thought thing, isn't it?
I was listening to you the other day. I listened in the airport. One of the various things I have downloaded on my phone is the First Feather stuff belonging to Pernilla, and probably listened to it 4 or 5 times last week. And then the Three Continents little discussion group. I listened to that a few times, and you said something that presumably I've heard you saying before because I've listened to it a bunch of times. Like something like you can't be awakened and be a seeker at the same time or something. And when I heard you saying that, I was like, oh yeah. And it just makes sense for a few seconds at a time until I go back thinking again, like, oh yeah, that makes complete sense, obviously. And then it goes, it disappears. I was listening to Cleona, and I didn't say anything at the time. She's gone now, but the something about the doubt thought. I was trying to do a little bit of disidentification from thoughts stuff today again. I go back to some of Angelo's videos over the last year. I keep going back and trying to look at, like, it sounds so simple. I like observe the substance of thoughts or something. I think that's what I'm trying to do. And just be present, be curiously observe the substance that thoughts are made of. And I'm looking, and then within a very short length of time, I realize that I'm judging that I'm doing it wrong. So therefore, I'm obviously believing a thought identified. So I get annoyed. So I try to step back from that. And just the sense that I'm identified with that feeling of doing it wrong, and that I cannot disidentify it is so 100% certain I will never. And it's almost like the thought it's like a wrestler that has the ability to just throw me onto the ground. It's the strength of it is so intense. I'm like, it's just a thought. It couldn't possibly have that kind of strength. It's ridiculous. And just the whole day long, I'd be sweat dripping down my forehead, trying to just step back far enough from believing the thought I can't do this for an hour at a time. I'm like, oh my God, how could this be so hard? It's ridiculous. I'm just trying to be curious about the substance that thoughts to me. So I was trying to do that today again, you know, and it was just, I was fascinated by what Cleona said, but then she's gone now. But
Yeah. Well,
anyway.
and so, I mean, I may be repeating myself here, but that doesn't matter. But it just, that brings up for me is, don't try and stop it. Don't fight those things. You know, that only makes them stronger. You're trying to do that. Right. What you need to do is kind of take a step to the right or to the left, a sideways step anyway, and look at what, so you see it's like you can see the thoughts and the content of the thoughts going out, but you're looking at it from the side. You're not in it. It's not you. You're seeing it happen, and you're looking at it from the side, saying, that's interesting. You know, I've got this really strong thought that says I've got to do something. And instead of being involved in what it's saying, you're just looking at the fact that it exists.
Yeah. I think I know that's what I'm trying to do. I'll try the sideways thing that you suggested. It feels like, yeah, I notice it and I go, I'm just going to stand to whatever, I don't know, whichever way.
Yeah, just get out of the blast of it. Yeah.
Just I'm in, but I guess I get frustrated because I'm in that certainty that I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing it wrong. And I'm going, how can I keep doing this wrong for an hour? There's no point in doing this wrong for an hour. I'm certain that I'm doing this wrong. And I have to get out of that certainty that I'm doing it wrong because it's going to be a waste of my hour, isn't it? Or whatever, 5 minutes or whatever. And it's just so hard to get out. And sometimes it's weird. It's like there's a fraction of a second of separation from whatever group of thoughts that feel like me. And it feels like I'm going to suffocate to death. It's like my whole system is like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to die of not being made out of thoughts. Just panic, you know what I mean? It's the whole system is like, no, he's made out of thoughts. You can't disidentify from that. And it's just weird how hard that it's just.
Paul's jumping out of his skin here. He wants.
Vince, did you hear what he just said?
Yeah.
When he sits back and can't identify his thoughts, he gets scared.
Yeah.
When he actually looks at his thoughts objectively. Don, we were talking about this earlier. The thought that I'm doing it wrong, which I call a judgment thought, what gives that thought the authority to judge other thoughts?
I asked that question. I was saying, yeah, I knew you were going to ask me that, but I asked that anyway today and other days. And the answer is just, it's certainly true. And there's no way you can figure out what the answer is to that question. You've got no hope of answering that and you're just screwed. And that's the end of it. And it's just certainty of it is just, and that's what I'm trying to.
What is certainty? Define to me what is certainty.
I mean, there's a weird experience in this case that like.
Look at you pointing to your heart. Look at you pointing to your heart. You're pointing to a sensation, aren't you?
Yeah.
Certainty for you is a feeling connected to that thought that I'm doing it wrong. This is what I was getting at with you the last time. You're using sensations to prove a thought true or false. You gotta look, what is it's an imaginary glue there that binds those together. That's what you need. When you look, what is it that is tying that feeling that you're pointing to? And you went right to it.
Yeah.
That's what's giving you the certainty that the thought, I'm doing it wrong. So, because in experience, you're not doing anything wrong, but you're vesting that thought that you're doing it wrong with power because of a feeling. You're giving too much precedent to a feeling. Do you see that?
Yeah, I think I do. I mean, there's like in the experience of it, there's some sense and a belief or an awareness that I'm not doing it wrong, or I'm just doing whatever. And then this parallel belief or feeling that I am doing it wrong. And then whoever I am, if I'm anyone, trying to do this self-inquiry, going, why does this feeling seem so certain? Where is it coming from? There's no basis for it. Why does it feel, or I don't know, why is the right word, but I just don't
Why
know
is the
why.
label certainty applied to that feeling?
Why?
Yeah, why'd you do that? Why do you apply certainty to that feeling?
Why did I apply certainty to that? I don't know. Yeah, I can find no evidence for it. I can find no basis, no foundation, and it's
Well,
quite
there's your
frustrating.
inquiry. That's your inquiry right there.
Yeah,
Focus on finding why you apply the label certainty to that feeling which you think makes thoughts true.
yeah. There's some sort of assertion there, so I guess repeated some thought over and over again, something like that. I need to
Well, it's a
find, but there
habit.
must be find. Yeah. It probably is. Sometimes I notice there's a thought. It feels like one continuous thought, but it's more like the same thought repeated 4 or 5 times every second. And yeah, probably a habit. Yeah, and so it's frustrating because I know there's no evidence, and I know it's just there, and yet it feels like it's certain. I'm going, what the hell? What do I do next? But anyway, I'll keep, yeah. But I don't see what I
Just
don't see what
notice
it
it.
is. Hmm?
Just notice it continuously.
Just notice it.
Notice
Okay.
continually when you say that the certainty comes up in connection with anything, particularly with you,
Yeah.
it's I'm doing it wrong, because I hear that from you all the time.
Yeah.
That's like your go-to thought for everything. You know, try to
Yeah.
look at that connection. Just notice it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really do anything. Just notice it over and over and see if that sensation that's attached is actually certainty, or if it's just
Yeah.
a sensation.
Just a sensation. Yeah. Yeah. And I will. I'll keep doing that. I do have that in mind to do. It gets kind of dizzying, almost physically dizzying looking at it. But yeah, I will look at that. I keep it's so weird because I said I do somehow rationally know that it isn't certain, and yet at the same time it feels so, whatever that, I know you're annoyed with me continuing to use the word feel, but anyway, it does it does feel that way for some
Right.
reason.
You
Yeah.
use it a lot.
Yeah.
Just notice it. Just notice
Yeah.
how often you go to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I know I said this to you before more than once. I feel like that just saying I think something is kind of pointless, because I will just behave according to how I feel, or I could say immediately that I'm not certain about these feelings, but that doesn't seem to matter as far as how I respond to life and whether I get triggered or how I behave. So the feeling is what seems to determine how I behave.
Yeah, well, responding to life, I mean, you have a biological entity that does what it does, and it does it very well. I mean, the very fact that you have reached the age you have says the biological entity works very well. It's
Yeah.
the thought monster that's gotten a little out of whack here.
Yeah.
But just notice how often you go to feelings for certainty, and do they actually provide certainty, or are they just sensations?
Yeah. Okay, I'll keep doing that.
Can I ask
Thank you.
something? Do you think if you had some hash cookies or some marijuana, it might soften the inner critic?
I know certain things would, but there's a slight risk with that stuff that I get paranoid, so I have to avoid.
Yeah.
Have
True.
to take
Yeah.
precautions with that kind of stuff. It isn't.
Yeah,
There's
I
no
wondered.
guarantees.
Yeah.
Those things. Alcohol is pretty good for it, but I'm not sure if the results would be lasting.
No, I don't think alcohol does it. I was just thinking it might just soften the inner critic that's there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I don't know. It's yeah, it's not reliable what the results are from that. So I don't bother doing it anymore.
It's
But thanks.
just a wild thought.
That's just what you call bypassing. That's just kind of getting rid of the symptoms. It's not getting rid of the reason why they're there.
Would that be bypassing?
Yeah, for sure.
Ah,
Look, it depends on lots of things, of course, but you could possibly get in a situation, probably more likely with psilocybin than with marijuana. But if
Yeah.
you're somebody and you were working under those circumstances, yes, you certainly could reveal some stuff. But doing it just to deaden the what's happening, no, that is bypassing. Yeah.
oh, I didn't mean to deaden it. I thought it just might soften it. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't, not that I do it, but not that I use that, but I don't know. I just remember when I used to, it would, I don't know, it would open things up more.
Mm. But it can
So
also
I
get
think
the thought
that I
monster
would,
going a bit more than it needs to be as well, eh?
what?
So it can also get the thought monster going a bit too much.
Yeah. 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 I don't know. I don't know. It was just a random thought.
Mm. Yeah, we all want Don to get well, but at the same time, we want him to stay the same because we love him the way he is.
Yes. Well, yes, of course. Yes.
I was thinking about that. You said that was it yesterday, Vince, or last week, and it was very, very kindly. I appreciate it. Thank you. But I was thinking about like, what would I be like if I weren't like this, as it were. It's such a long time. It's such a long time since I wasn't depressed and anxious and all those things, and it's hard to remember. But I would say it'd probably be really, really different, actually. Like the amount of excuse making and all the stuff I do now. It's such a long, long time since I was calm and confident. Really long time. I'm pretty sure I'd be really different. Well, hopefully I'd still be nice, but I mean, it would just be, I think the most shock, my guess, right? This is just a prediction of the future, which who knows, right? But well, I guess was because of, what happened a long time ago when I had my glimpse. But the most shocking thing, I think, for most people would likely be that I would listen to other people and not talk about myself. And then nobody would recognize me at all unless I had a name tag, if that was the case.
Don, who used to talk a lot.
Yeah.
Always talked about himself. Yeah.
Yeah.
The label. Yeah. Yeah. Look, it's interesting, that one. You know, I actually can't remember what life was like before I woke up. That's like it was another person. I just don't remember. I have kind of like pages in a comic book that I can relate to, refer to, but they're not. It's like they weren't me. They were just how I said I was, or something really weird, you know. And it's like, yeah, it's strange how memory works like that. You know, like you can experience it. You wake up and it's a really cold morning and you can't imagine what it's like to be warm, you know, and you put clothes on, and then it comes the middle of the day and it's really, really hot and you can't remember what it was like in the morning when you were really cold. It's crazy. That's my experience, though. Yeah. Yeah. Who will be? You know, the funny thing is that people that you know, people in your life, probably won't even recognize that you've changed. They won't even know. They'll still see what they always saw, which was never you anyway. It was always what they expected to see. And they'll continue to see what they expect to see, most likely. But the ones that you're really close to, who do see that, they're going to put pressure on you to stay the same. They don't want you to change because they like you the way you are. So that'll also happen. But yeah, my experience is it's pretty internal what goes on. You know, it's not so obvious on the outside.
I've heard you saying that. That's interesting. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. I mean, hopefully I'll see, right? Hopefully
Yeah,
I'll see.
you caught
Yeah.
yourself then. You said we'll see, and then you changed it to
see,
I
yeah.
hope we will. Yeah.
Hopefully I'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, you will. I think you will. Yeah, because you're persistent, and that's one of the biggest things. Absolutely. If you've got that persistence, you'll get there. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah. A few years ago, my psychiatrist used to call me obsessive, and it used to be really annoy me when she called me that. Because I used to think, like, if you were in this much pain, you'd be obsessive too. It's just if you have no empathy whatsoever, that's why you call me obsessive. Because you think that I you know, you don't realize how much I'm struggling. But now, as of this year and last year, I would call myself obsessive now. I'm fucking going for this every minute of the day that I can find. I'm just sick of everything else that's happening.
That's good. That'll get you there. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Well, Don, if you get a button that says Don who used to talk too much, I want a button that says Kathleen who used to talk too much. Because my friends are starting to, and they're not into this at all. Okay. And so, and they're really a close group of friends, but they're like Kathleen, well, you're not asking any questions. Like, is something wrong? And I'm like, no, I'm fine, you know, but they're really noticing that I mean, they used to say like I was a Spanish Inquisition because I was asking, you know, what, why, you know, and I'm just not doing that anymore. And I'm real comfortable just listening and not asking all the questions and not having to say a lot. But yeah, I'm going to get that button too. Kathleen, who used to talk a lot, because I don't anymore.
Oh, that's funny. I just remind me, actually, it was a good long time ago. Every now and then I'd be in a good mood. Doesn't happen a huge amount. But whatever the job I had before, about 15 or 20 years ago, and sometimes things were going well, and I'd have a few days or a few weeks I'd feel okay. And I remember individual days, and people, particularly at work, I suppose, when I was feeling really chill, and I wouldn't need to fill the space if there was silence. I wouldn't need to make any noise. And people would get really nervous and they'd go, Don, are you okay? And I'm thinking, I've been depressed for fucking years and no one ever asked me if I was okay. Today I'm feeling okay. What the hell are you asking me if I'm okay today? And I'm
they
like,
want
yep.
the depressed Don back. They know him.
Yeah. And and they just couldn't get over it. I didn't need to make any noise or fill the space or say anything, and it just made them really anxious that I didn't want to talk the whole time, and I had no need to kind of keep them on side or make them feel happy or anything. It was funny.
But you know, those people represent something in you as well. There's part of you that doesn't want to change. There's part of you that likes the familiar, and so on. So what they do to you, they remind you how you used to be or how they like you to be, in an attempt to get you to be there. But you do that to yourself as well. Yeah. So
yeah, I'm sure I do. But you know, it's my fault that I'm like this, Vince. So I know that already, right? You didn't have to remind me.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, if we were literal, I'd get the whip out and hit you a few times. Yeah.
But I do look. I know I'm honest. I'm joking about that. But I do look for ways that I do that. I try to see if. But anyway, I try to look for ways of doing that if I'm doing it. Yeah. But anyway,
we were discussing somebody like you in the guide training group this morning. Somebody that's been through the hoops so much that they know everything that's going on, right? And they use that to not get there. That's a special kind of seeker, that one. Yeah. There's not a single hoop that you haven't been through. You know every one of them. You're familiar with them all. You know all the theory. You could pass the test 100% so easily to say, you know, yeah, you've got it, you know, but you haven't.
No. Oh, it's strange. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. If you come up with a solution at your next meeting, Vince, let me know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no solution. It'll be just like that. You know what? When you said about that, you can't be a seeker and be awake at the same time. That was for me a trigger that changed my life.
Yeah.
Right? It was a realization that came out of something that somebody said, but it was one sentence after 43 odd years of seeking. Somebody uttered one sentence that changed my life. And it was the realization that total acceptance that if I'm a seeker, then I'm permanently projected into the future seeking something. And that what being awake is about is not that, it's being with what is. And why was it different for me? Why did that propel me? After all the reading I'd done, all the things I'd listened to, and it was a bit before YouTube in my time, but I certainly read everything I could get my hands on. I had a library of over 100 books when I woke up, and I gave them all away. And I had trouble finding people to take them. But anyway, I'd read everything, and then one sentence does it for me. Wow, that's just a mind boggle, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
whatever that sentence is going to be for you, it's hanging around somewhere, just waiting to do its job. Yeah. And it will. I have no doubts. Okay.
Yeah, that was a big one for me as well, Vince. I heard, it was like I heard it for the first time, someone talking about seeking, and that you couldn't stop the seeking was an energy that kind of stopped on its own. And it's like I'd heard it for the first time, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what it is. This like mechanism that's always going forward, and it just put a spoke in it in that moment. It just put a spoke in the wheel of continually jumping over the gap to go somewhere, ignoring the gap, ignoring the space, because I wanted to go somewhere else. I wanted to get better. I wanted to get awake, or,
to fix something.
Yeah, fix it. And it's a definite energy with it. There's a definite sensation with it that's very, it's so uncomfortable seeking energy, isn't it? That was it for me, just hearing that. Like, I'd heard it loads of times, but in that moment, I heard it for the first time, and it hit me like a brick, a nice brick.
That's what happened. And it can be the same thing we've heard many times before, and all of a sudden we let it in or something. Yeah. Sorry.
Feeling, it's feeling really powerful right now. I heard you say it before, Vince, in a video I've watched, but now it's really feeling like creating such a shift. And I was just about to ask what feels like a a silly question, and that statement kind of feels like it's bringing an answer of just how, I feel silly saying it, but how do you know that you have awakened? Is because as soon as you say you can't have a seeker, can't be a seeker and awake at the same time, awake just is there. And yet, is this it? Like, this is my question. Is this it? And this is all there is. So is this it? There can't be anything else than this. So yet, this is more now in the forefront, I think, as I've said before. And when I'm in my active day, I often forget this. This is, this isness. It's like it just is, and is everything. And so is that what it is all the time? And it just doesn't fade? Or I know it doesn't fade, it's just that my attention isn't on it. You
Well,
know,
Yeah, that's your non-duality stuff shining through a bit, I think. You know, the experience is that it can not be there. But no, you know, when we look at it, you don't have an experience that it's not there. You can have an experience. Oh, how do I say this? You can have an experience after the fact. You can, in remembering your experience, you can describe it as not being there. But you'll never experience it not being there, because when it's not there in experience, you don't know that it's not there in experience. You're not thinking about it. It's not there because you are lost in something. Now, that's not to say that's bad. Of course, that's going to happen many times every day. Every time you go to the shop, you're not going to be looking at the man behind the counter and saying, I'm here in silence. You're going to be going, how much money do I need to get out? So
Right.
consequently, you are going to be lost in those activities that take place during a normal day. What does that say about being awake? Absolutely nothing. The moment you step back, or as I'm saying to Don, step sideways and look at what happened, you easily recognize that there's no self there running the show. You easily see all of those other things. So what does it mean that you were totally involved in hunting for change in your purse for the grocery man? What that means is that you were absolutely 100% in the present. But you weren't deluding yourself that that was a self doing it. Right? It was just that you were 100% involved.
Mm-hmm.
This is a hard one to get across too, but everything in existence, everybody, everything in existence relies on movement, constant change. There is no such thing as stop. Everything is always changing. And when you wake up, what happens, one of the things that happens is that you no longer give credibility to a whole lot of the filters that you used to have that said, oh, that's not socially acceptable or whatever. Right? That's where I get the word liberation comes from, and that is that you are liberated from the jail of social conditioning. And so when you were always told about how important it was to be polite, what that changes into is you recognize that there are consequences to not being polite, but that being polite isn't something that's real. It's just something that's socially acceptable, and it's appropriate to do it. But it's not a compulsion that says you go to jail if you don't do it, right? Whatever that jail might be. So you get liberated from that. But you will have, and then doubt will come along too, doubt, because how many years of conditioning have you got that's been reinforced again and again and again that says you have to be a certain way? And these things get, look, let's say that there's 1,000 of these things that we've imbibed, that they become part of us, part of our body, part of our mind, right? And we've got 1,000 things. And when we wake up, we see that 10 of those are simply crazy. The idea of self, the idea of control, the idea of choice, etc. We can wipe out 10 of those really quickly when we go through the first feta. But guess what? There's 990 of them left that are there, that have been buried, that haven't been triggered yet. And so they haven't come to the surface for us to shine the light of recognition on them or examination on them that says also these are just delusions. Right? But as they come up, and they will, one at a time or sometimes in groups, they'll pop up and you'll look at them and you'll go, oh, that's a crazy one. You'll chuckle, you'll laugh, because some of the things that'll come up will be totally infantile, totally crazy stuff. But it's still there because it hasn't been given the opportunity to come up, hasn't been triggered. And so consequently, we haven't examined it. And so it's still there. But that'll keep happening. That'll keep happening for years and years and years. Is there any end to it? I really don't know. It's certainly, I haven't experienced an end to it. So when they come up, what you need to watch is there a doubt thought that wants to jump onto this and give it reason and give it meaning and say, therefore you're not awake. If it does, you recognize that it's just a thought, right? Now that can be a bit of a trick, because that too can be bypassing. If you dismiss it because it's just a thought, that's bypassing. That's not dealing with it. But if you examine it and see that it has no, it's full of hot air, so to speak, and it goes away, then you've dealt with it and it won't come back. Or if it does, maybe it just needs a bit more examination. But once it's fully examined and all the hot air's let out of it, it won't come back. But you can expect years and years of these things coming up. Oh, I shouldn't say that, because maybe not. Some people go really fast. But yeah, for me, I mean, it's been, 12 years now, and they still come up for me. So yeah, we're human. We are human as well.
But what I hear you saying is this before and after, and that's why I'm looking to see whether, I have this experience now and often that, everything, this, stillness is in the forefront and everything's in that stillness. And, so I don't know if that's just going to gradually just stay with me all the time, or my attention will be with it all the time. The languaging gets funny,
Yeah.
when you're talking about it, but it doesn't feel so much like a before and after. It feels like I kind of move in and out of it,
Yeah. Well, yeah. It feels like see, one of the things we're learning to do is how to examine what comes up. So it feels like you come in and out of it. Is that feeling actually saying that? I'll bet you it's not. I'll bet you what you've got there is you've got a sensation and you've got stories attached to that sensation, right?
Okay.
When you particularly if you get to Feta 4 and 5 stuff to work it out, there's a really good technique, and you can apply it to this as well. And that is that you go in towards that sensation, looking for it. Now, recognize that a feeling is a sensation with stories attached to it, right? What you're going to do is you're going to get to the sensation, and you're going to just not take notice of the stories until you've got a clear experiencing of the sensation. And that will be beneath words as well. That sensation won't be describable accurately, because it's changing, and it's too complex, and it's impossible to put labels that define any bits of it, because it's of the complexity and the subtlety of it and so on. So you'll get to that sensation, and what you'll discover, and you do need to actually do this, what you'll discover when you get there is that that sensation has no information in it. It has no instructions telling you how to behave. All of that comes from the stories you attach to it, right? The stories that turn up and attach themselves to it, you can say, right? But what happens is it's those stories that are telling you you're coming in and out of it. When you get to the sensation, you realize that that sensation used to validate those stories. This is what Paul was talking about earlier on with John. The feeling, we somehow give our feeling more value than we give our thoughts as we travel down this road. But your feelings are produced by your thoughts. And so in fact, they have no more validity than your thoughts. But yet that's what happens. So that's something for you to step aside and look at and see what's actually going on there. Now, as to your actual experience of coming in and out, what you may well find is that that experience changes when you go through that exercise I just talked about, because it was the thoughts that attached to that got validated by the feeling that says, I'm coming out of it, that were actually creating the coming out of it. See, so what you do is you release yourself from the responding to the stories bit of it, and then you're back with just what is actually happening. Now, those stories are sneaky. They get in there and they divert us all the time.
More like you were saying before, like I just am in my day and I just forget until I remember. So then when I remember, then it's always been there. I just forgot it was there.
Yeah. And so what's actually happening when you remember? How does it suddenly come back? Or how is the realization that it was always there? How does that happen when you remember? It's just where you shift your focus to, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a shift of focus completely.
So you can be in the middle of hunting for change in your purse for the man at the grocery store, and as your hand goes into your purse, you go, oh, wow, look at that. Fingers doing what fingers do. And you're there again, right in the middle of it. But you can't make these things come up. They'll happen or they won't happen by themselves.
I can't make remembering come up.
Absolutely. That's right.
Yeah. Just
So
all of a sudden I remember and I'm like, oh, why can't I remember more? You know?
okay, but that's where you go wrong. See, the moment, and I say go wrong, that's a stupid thing to say as well.
Yeah.
But that's the moment when you get diverted, right? Why can't I always remember? And then all of a sudden you're off on that chain of events, like there's something wrong with you. You're not awake yet, because you don't remember all the time. It's just a bullshit story.
Right.
Yeah. Don't expect to remember all the time. You see, this is one of the hardest things. If I could give everybody in the world a gift, I would give them this world. I would give them this gift. And that is that no matter what comes up, no matter what is happening, it's exactly okay. There is nothing ever, any idea of wrongness is just a made up story. What is happening is what is happening. And there's no getting away from that. And whatever it is, it's just there. And if we say it's there because, we're getting off into a story again. It is just there. There's no getting away from what is what is. And if I'm awake, or if I feel like I'm awake, if I'm experiencing this calmness, if I'm experiencing agitation, doesn't matter. There is no difference. It is what it is, what it is. So with me, when I got that message that made me realize that I can't be a seeker and be awake at the same time, what that did for me was it gave me the gift that whatever is here is what is here. And then it came the realization that by the time I become aware of what is here, some milliseconds have gone past. My awareness is very quick, but it's not in real time. It comes after the event. So whatever is appears to be here, whatever this is, it's already in the past. And there's absolutely 0 point in wishing it to be different. So therefore there's this wonderful acceptance. And look, if I could give that feeling, if I could give that gift as well, that gift of accepting whatever it is that's here, whatever it is, no matter whether it feels shitty or not, whatever it is, it's exactly the way it's, I hate saying this, meant to be. It's because it's not meant to be, but you know what I mean? It is the way it is, the way it is. And that acceptance of it means that I don't corrupt whatever it is. It might already have turned up in a corrupted form, but it doesn't matter. I'm not going to corrupt it further with stories about how it should have been. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You can't
I
do
can't
anything
do anything about it.
about
Absolutely.
because it already happened.
Yeah.
It already happened.
Yeah.
It's already passed.
Yeah. So let that one float in that one. That woke me up. That did beautifully. And it might just for you too. It'll be lovely. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Well, it's time for me to go and make poached eggs for my lovely wife.
That's what we had this morning. Poached eggs. It's a day earlier here.
All right. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you. And thank you, everybody.
You're welcome.
Yes,
Thank you,
thank
everybody.
you,
Thanks a
everyone.
lot.
Beautiful
It was
time
nice
here.
being here today.
Yeah. Oh, it's nice
Wonderful.
every time, I think.
Lovely.
Thanks, everyone. Good to meet you.
Bye.
Love to